What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew 2, and in this video I'm going to go over my top 2 favorite drag cars in the entire game, and or at least drag cars I would highly recommend trying out that are basically going to be my favorite ones. Now there's only going to be 11 drag cars in the game here, so there's obviously not a ton, and some of them are going to basically be useless like the CTR3 here. It only does like 335 miles per hour, so you basically can't even use it. What's kind of hilarious is the fact that the Bugatti Supersport 300 Plus can basically keep up with that vehicle, but overall guys, I would say not all the drag cars are going to be bad, but I do think some are going to be better than others. I was also testing out the SRT Viper, which almost made it to my list, but I was just not a big fan of the way this car was handling, which you really would not expect good handling out of a drag vehicle. But nonetheless though guys, starting off with the number 2 spot is going to be the Proto Hup 1 Inferno Edition. This is definitely going to be a very interesting looking vehicle for that matter. It's basically going to be Ghost Rider being in a car, and when you guys are actually driving it, it is going to like glow red as well, so it definitely looks pretty awesome. I would say a lot of people are probably running this car because it's going to have one big advantage over every other drag car. That's going to be its top speed being around 417 miles per hour, which is actually going to make the Inferno Edition the fastest drag car in the game, at least running a nitro chemist set. I was noticing if you guys obviously do slipstream somebody, it's going to be a lot quicker than that. But if you guys were to do like some of the speed traps or like some of the races, this thing is definitely going to have a nice advantage to it with that insane top speed. Now when it comes to the handling of the Inferno Edition, I'm kind of mixed on this thing, but it's probably not going to be as good as some of the other drag cars like the Corvette Stingray. The main reason why is I feel like it's not going to turn as good, which probably does make sense considering it is a drag car and it's really not made to turn. But yet people are basically turning the Corvette, and that's probably why that car is going to be so good. But the biggest advantage of the Inferno Edition is by far going to be that higher top speed, especially if you guys are racing solo on some of these events and or some of these speed traps. Now when it comes to the parts set on this thing, I would recommend going after Pure and or Frenetic. The main reason for that is Pure and Frenetic are by far going to be the best perks on a set for doing speed traps and or races, because you will be getting the most power and actually be able to hit that top speed. Now if you guys were doing escapes, I would recommend running Extra Pump and Pure. That way you can actually have your nitrous more often when doing those, but when it comes to events specifically with those speed traps, I do think Pure and Frenetic are by far going to be the best options on this Inferno Edition. And having that higher top speed is always going to be a nice plus, especially if you guys are running solo. I really do feel like a lot of people still run the Inferno Edition because of that reason. On many of the speed traps I've noticed on skills, I have seen many players run this vehicle, and I definitely can understand why, because it's going to be insanely stable, and that higher top speed is going to be incredible. And if you guys actually slipstream, you're going to be able to hit well over 430 miles per hour with it. So this thing's definitely going to be one of the best drag cars in the game, which is easily going to take the second place for me for my top 2 drag cars in this class. And now moving over to number 1, I'm sure is not going to be very shocking to most people. That's going to be the Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. It's honestly kind of insane, guys, how good this car is actually going to be, basically compared to every other drag car. I really do think it comes down to the way this thing can speed up so quickly, which obviously most of the drag cars are going to be pretty dang fast, but the main reason why the Corvette's going to be so dang good compared to most of the other drag cars is probably going to be some of its speed, but I also feel like it's going to be the way this thing does handle. So of course it is a drag car. You're most likely not expecting a vehicle like this to actually handle very good. But my goodness, guys, the Corvette is going to be so dang good on escapes because of the way it can handle. You can actually dodge vehicles pretty easily with it and or keep this thing in a straight line, and also go around certain turns at a pretty decent speed, then basically take off afterwards. I really do feel like the Corvette is by far still going to be one of the best drag cars in the game. I mean, you can basically run this thing on speed traps and jump into an escape, and then if you wanted to, you can basically do one of the races as well with it and get a good score on every single one of them, What's kind of funny is when it is a no restriction like that one summit we had recently, I actually used the Corvette on both of the events and still scored very well. I really do think this car is going to be insanely good. Now, I did mention with the Inferno edition is that depending on what skill and or event you might be doing, I would say there's going to be specific part sets you guys might want to have on the drag cars. I also have videos for this if you guys are interested, testing out the different sets on the drag cars in the description below. But for this, guys, I would recommend going after Pure and Frenetic for the races. You will easily have more speed running Pure and Frenetic because I notice if you guys have this set on, you can normally hit a higher top speed. But when it comes to doing the escapes, I would definitely recommend running Extra Pump and Pure with the Corvette because you will have a lot more nitrous in that aspect, and you can easily get some crazy scores while running this vehicle. Now, one of the biggest things I notice on why the Corvette is going to be so good, guys, I have noticed when testing out other drag cars for some odd reason, they do lose their stability really badly. I was noticing, for example, with the 370Z, if you would go over a little bump or something or like a piece of uneven ground, I noticed that car would completely lose itself and basically spin out and or lose all of its traction. It could even start hopping as well, and on some of the longer races, I was noticing if there's like a hill or something like that in the event, that my goodness, that car was kind of a nightmare to use. So I really do feel like there's going to be lots of reasons why the Corvette is going to be so dang good, and why so many people are most likely going to pick the Corvette over every single drag car. Now, of course, the Inferno edition also came in second for me on this list because that thing is also pretty dang impressive, especially running it on races and stuff, so I would say the Inferno is going to be a great choice. But if you guys want an overall option that can basically do everything from escapes to races, I really do think the Corvette is by far going to be the greatest option. This car still blows my mind every time I drive it, the way this thing can corner. You really would never expect that out of a drag car on this game, but let me know which drag car is going to be your favorite one in the comments below and why, and I feel like most people are going to pick the Corvette, but I really have been seeing the Inferno pop up a good amount recently, so at least there's going to be some variety. I do want to mention, by the way, guys, stay tuned for the other classes as well. And besides all that, guys, here are the settings I'm currently running on the Corvette Stingray and the lovely Inferno edition.